We have come to an important part of our meeting, this conference, which is the presentation of FPE's 10-year strategic plan from 2015 to 2025. As embodied in this new vision, FPE ventures into a more exciting journey as it intends to become a more dynamic, relevant, and growing organization that will take the lead in pursuing biodiversity conservation and sustainable development for healthy ecosystems and resilient communities. To give us the overview of this new direction, I'm calling here on stage our Executive Director, Mr. Godofredo Villapando.
So my presentation will cover the following: the priority key biodiversity areas, the FPE Strategic Plan 2025, the context, the vision, mission and goals, the performance indicators, and the strategies. So I would like to start my presentation with the most recent fight between Floyd Mayweather Jr. and Manny Pacquiao. So pwede po natin tignan, di ba? Parang pwede natin ihalintulad yung paghahanda sa isang laban sa tulad ng pinagdaanan ng Foundation for the Philippine Environment sa paghahanda sa kanyang strategic plan. Tulad din natin, tayo ay mga supporter at panatiko ni Manny Pacquiao. Tayo ay naniniwala sa kanyang kakayahan, sa kanyang ginawang paghahanda. Pero sa actual na laban, kuminsan po may mga yung pong ginawa mong estratehiya ay hindi yun ang nangyayari pag nandun na. So may mga kanya-kanyang tactics. Before the fight, they call it the fight of the century. But after the fight, they call it the dancing of the century. So I would like to provide with you the criteria that we use, because most of the presentation and the targets that we have under the strategic plan is mainly focused, most of it, in the initiative being undertaken by FPE and being undertaken by our partner NGOs and POs on the ground, or the so-called community-based biodiversity conservation and sustainable development project. So we use the following criteria in selecting our sites. The involvement of FPE and others, we take a look at it, kasi po, kumbaga parang tinitingnan namin kung meron na pong dating investment at sino-sino pa yung mga actors na doon sa lugar na yon. It's very important to know so that the experiences and the investment will be just something like harvesting the gains that what we have started in that area. It's important to know the stakeholders and the available resources in the area, not only in terms of manpower, but also the resources and the attitude of the people whom the intervention will work with. The prospective partners, as mentioned by Dr. Alcala, medyo swak po yung nasabi nyo kanina that we really have no option but to work with local government unit, and it's really one of the strategies that we have included in the strategic plan. The biodiversity value, because we are really one of the mega diverse country in the world. The drivers of degradation, so that we can identify appropriate intervention on how to address that concern. The impact of site to ecosystem connectivity, LGU participation to sustainability, the sustainability financing mechanism, and the rest. And the risk factor. Tulad po nung binabanggit ka po ni Dr. Alcala kanina, it's not only important to undertake marine protected areas in the east, but we may have considered establishing marine protected area in the west. So, when we have started the different sites that we will be covering under the new strategic plan of FPE, initially we have identified 3 each sites for Luzon, Visayas, and Mindanao. But in the process of reviewing it and using the criteria that we have presented to you, we are able to come up with a 2 key biodiversity area per major regions in Luzon, Visayas, Mindanao. And these are for Luzon, the Calvario Patapat. Here it is located in Adams, in Ilocos Norte area, and in Sibuyan Island in the southern part of Luzon. So yun po yung dalawa nating area for Luzon. And for Visayas, as mentioned by Dr. Alcala, the Gigantes group of islands that is found in the northern part of Iloilo and the Mount Nakulod area in Leyte. And for Mindanao, we intend to cover the Agusan Mars and in Ligawasan Mars. So, specifically in Ligawasan Mars, hindi po ito bago sa FPE kasi we've been working in the area at least for the past 6 years. So, we would like to present to you the maps of FPE's intervention. Right now, we have just we're in the process of completing the research activity being undertaken by our research partner in Luzon, by UP Baguio, and then intends to cover this is the Calvario Patapat area. So they are now in the process of finalizing the so-called RSA, which will be used as a baseline and basis of conservation management plan that will be formulated and implemented in this particular area. The second one is the Sibuyan Island. So ito po yung isa sinasabi natin na kumbaga kung meron po tayo, alam natin yung Galapagos. So this is the Galapagos of the Philippines. So isang maliit na island, hitik na hitik po ito. At for the part of the Foundation for the Philippine Environment, we work in the area at least for the past 4 years through the implementation of the EU-funded mainstreaming indigenous people's participation in environmental governance. Ang dami po, under that particular project, there's a lot of intervention that we have undertaken, from environmental defense to capacity building to the setting up of sustainability financing mechanism. And this one, you can see the different fauna species within the Sibuyan Island and the technical assistance of Fauna and Flora International is very important. Sila po yung katulong po namin sa pag-identify po nito, pag-contact po nung tinatawag po namin resources socio-economic assessment in the area. Pero kung titingnan po natin, sa dami po ng kanya makikitang iba't ibang wildlife and biodiversity sa area, talaga pong hindi lamang ito siguro, I think it's a threat also in the other parts of the Philippines, the applications of mining in this particular area. So kung titingnan po ninyo itong may mapa na ito po yung tinatawag natin, ito po yung Mount Giting-Giting. But kita po natin yung overlap, ito po mga white na ito, halos sa palibot po niyan at may mga lugar pa nga po pumapasok na yung pong mining application sa lugar ng Giting-Giting area na isa pong natural park. So in the Visayas, hindi lang po mas malinaw ang ating pong mapa, but this is the area that we will undertake in Gigantes group of islands in Carles, Iloilo. And somewhere here is this one is Mount Nakulod in Leyte area. Hindi rin po tayo kumbaga bago rito. Kasi kung titignan po natin, bagamat may mga maliliit pong intervention before, we work with the Visayas State University and each partner in implementing the USAID-funded upscaling forest restoration in this particular area. Ito rin po ay isang research area na ginagalawan ng Fauna and Flora International, and this has a substantial investment also, this particular site, yung pong Mount Nakulod area, in terms of support from the GIZ and the ICCA project or DUCAP ng DNR BNB. So in Mindanao, these are the two areas that we intend to cover, the Agusan Marsh and the Ligawasan Marsh. If you look at the investment, the sites, you can see the different land cover, important land cover in this particular area. And using the watershed approach, kung titingnan po natin ito pong may mga dotted line na ito ito po yung lugar kung saan po ang bumubuo ng watershed area, for instance, nitong Ligawasan Mars. At ito po namang lugar na ito ang watershed area ng Agusan Mars. So pag sinabi po natin watershed, ang tapon po ng tubig ay papunta sa lugar na yon. So initially nga po, when we mentioned that from 9 sites, we were able to come up with a recommendation to focus on 6 sites and 2 from each region. We used to have a target for the Marilog area, isa pong maliit na area located in the boundary of Bukidnon and Davao. Pero nung tinitingnan po namin, maliit po siyang watershed area at yung tapon po niya ng tubig ay papunta rito sa may Davao Gulf area. So hindi po siya magkakaroon ng magko-contribute dito sa nakikita po namin intervention na gagawin ng FPE for the next 10 years. So in terms of intervention, ito po makikita po dito yung iba't ibang mga projects po na isinagawa na po ng FPE. Ito po because under this one, as I mentioned before, at least for the past 7 years, we have intervention in the Ligawasan Marsh. And in this particular area, this is the area of Pulangi watershed. Ito po, we work with the Bukidnon Higaunon in this area. And the portion of this is in the Misamis Oriental, where we work with indigenous peoples through a partnership with Ulan, Androwats, and Nantigber Forest Product in this tri-boundary area of Mount Kimangkil. And this area, wala po kami pang, kumbaga, maliban po dun sa RSEA that we have conducted in Ligawasan Mars. Ang major pong intervention namin that will support the watershed approach is our investment for the past 5 years in Compostela Valley area. Ito po yung pinakang headwater dito po ang Agusan Mars. At tulad nga po ng sinasabi ng mga tao, may mga pagkakataon po na sa lugar na ito ng Agusan Mars ay maganda naman yung panahon. Pero dumadating po minsan yung panahon na nakikita po nila yung tubig ay mga kulay tsokolate. Lalo na po pag umuulan. Kasi po yung headwater po nito ay nanggagaling sa may area po ng Compostela Valley. Papunta po dyan sa Agusan Mars. So using the watershed approach, makikita po ninyo makikita natin yung interconnectivity ng ating pong approach. So, ito po, very briefly, I will present to you the 10-year strategic plan. The vision of FPE for the next 10 years is for FPE as a dynamic, relevant, and growing organization leading actions in biodiversity conservation and sustainable development toward healthy ecosystem and resilient communities. So kung makikita po natin, this is really more on the internal targets of the organization. So, pero bagamat ganyan po yan, we already have included the targets for our partner communities. Yung pong nakaraang vision before, ay halos po ano po yan meron pa pong isang sentence to complete our vision. And for the mission, FPE commits to build constituencies and capacities for the environment, promote responsive policies and action for biodiversity conservation and sustainable development. So kung makikita po ninyo yung mga keywords na ito, constituencies, capacities, responsive policies and action for BCSDs, it covers. Ito po yung pong major strategies that we will undertake under the strategic plan. Yung pong mga susunod na slides na ipapakita po sa inyo, this one will cover, this is the goal, and those with numbers are the key results areas that we have. And this bullet, ito po yung mga performance indicator that we have set for this area. So major habitats in adapted key biodiversity areas and other conservation sites are conserved and rehabilitated. So as mentioned before, we intend to cover 6 KBAs across the region, at least 6 habitats within key BAs, and that demonstrates improvements. Yung functional protection instrument is already there, and the species population has been protected. Under Goal number 2, to support initiative community approaches and action in PCSD. Our key result area number 2 is for the protection mechanism are institutionalized in adopting.
So we will, at this point, we will hear from at least 3 people representing the RAC, the General Advisory Committees, the partners, of course, and the experts on their thoughts, insights, and commitment to this strategic plan. Alam ko iniintay ng lahat ito. So may I call on now Prof. Tim Castillo. Dito po tayo.
First, I would like to recognize that it's very difficult to put everything that you want in a document like a strategic plan. Many of these, the things in a document like this are general or fundamental, and you flesh them out probably in another document like implementing rules and operational plan. Nonetheless, I'll take this opportunity to mention even those comments that may properly belong in that more detailed document. Secondly, I would like to really congratulate FPE. This is a very clear plan, and I can see a very strong commitment to a holistic and partnering approach. Thank you very much. But at the same time, with some mea culpas, I'm supposed to speak on behalf of all the 3 RACs. Actually, I did not have time to consult the Visayas and Mindanao RACs. So the things that I'll be saying here are actually outputs of the Luzon RAC planning, on the first week of March in Sorsogon, and consultations with Luzon RAC members. I'd like to make special mention of Ray Panaligan, and that's Sangkalan, and the other members of the Luzon RAC here this morning. Okay, so I'll be very forthright, but I'll be diplomatic nonetheless. So I'll start with a general comment that it is kind of difficult to formulate a strategic plan for 10 years. So the impression that we have is that this is more like a roadmap. More like a roadmap. And therefore, perhaps that's why we did not see some of the things that we expected to see in a strategic plan. Secondly, it is not concretized in the plan how the climate, disaster risk reduction, gender, culture sensitivity lens are integrated in the plan. Although these are identified as cross-cutting issues at the bottom of the document, the plan itself doesn't reflect actions or integrations of the new normal in the desired PCSD advocacy. Second, current international discourse on reduced emission from deforestation and forest degradation is not integrated in the plan. For example, reducing emissions from deforestation and degradation and conserving forest carbons as a mechanism to address climate change. In fact, emission reduction is one of the huge issues in the last COP summit in Lima, Peru, and we expect this will also be a highlight in the coming Paris COP meeting. The next set of comments belong under the category of governance, and maybe some of these things here may not be replaced, may not be in the strategic plan, but I'll grab this opportunity nonetheless to express them. Guiding principles for project and partner selection. There is a need for clarity on the basis for selection of FPE projects, such as how these correspond to the NEA and the regional environmental agenda. There is a need for clarity on the basis of FPE fund allocation and priorities. RAC Luzon members, for example, need to answer questions from partners in their areas on this point, how projects were selected, how funds are allocated. we cannot answer them clearly and adequately. The proposal is to make the REA, the Regional Environment Agenda, which is formulated by RACs, as a primary basis for approving project proposals. Still on governance, Sangkalan was struck by one information shared by national scientist Alcala, that a huge portion of the Philippine population are actually fishing communities, maybe as much as 50%. And what I know is that they are at the bottom of the poorest, of the poor population, and the poorest of the poor are fishing communities. And we thought that FPE should consider making a definitive fund allocation for coastal protection and rehabilitation in an integrated manner. We realize, for example, that one of the key BA is Gigantes, but most of the islands in this country are small islands, not the huge island of Luzon or Mindanao, but huge, many islands. And many of these islands are peopled by fishing communities who are among the most vulnerable to climate change effects. We thought that, oh God, I have 2 minutes left. The transparency and downward accountability should be a basic operational principle. For example, in goals E and F, we thought that there should be a goal on transparent and accountable fund management. The plan doesn't reflect a clear strategy for strengthening partnership between FPE and the other partners, environmental groups, especially people's organizations. We thought that downward accountability should be a priority goal in the strategic plan. Goal B has no performance indicators on accountability to partners or partners to their communities and to the people. Goal C, the resiliency of communities is not in the performance indicators, but it is in the goal. And so many other details. Oh, we should have a holistic view, I think that's, but we thought that there should be clearer and more explicit statement on the use of human rights as a lens on justice and gender and climate justice. Vulnerable communities should not be viewed as beneficiaries or recipients of our projects, rather as our basic partners. There should be clear statements in the plan and goals and performance indicators that indicate community ownership of projects. I'm not looking at you, Rafi. Now, third main point is on the Regional Advisory Committee. We are thinking in general that RAC should have a greater role in the strategic plan. We cannot see our work. We spend a lot of time in Luzon RAC after planning in Sorsogon. Our members went back to their partners, to their communities to validate, to look, please look at our plan. What do you think? I mean, we spend time. We have committed to our work without honorarium at all. But our work, the REA, is not even considered in the strategic plan. What is the role? What is the place of REA in all this? We thought that RAC members, that RAC should have a greater role in project assessment and in project monitoring, project selection. We would like that the FPE furnish RAC with assessment outcomes of proposals and the monitoring of projects. I have skipped many items because, Rafi, you have been oppressive. Thank you very much.
Call on our partner from Mindanao, Sir Dennis Salvador from Philippine Eagle Foundation.
Magandang hapon po sa inyong lahat. Unang-una, bago mag-start, huwag kayo magtanong sa akin, kahapon ko lang din napasa ito. At of course, Arman twisted my arm to get here. Anyway, maraming salamat sa opportunity. I am sure that many organizations, past and present, appreciate the role you played in the conservation of our country's natural resources. Aptly named the Philippine the foundation for Philippine environment, it continues to be one of the few and important windows for funding environmental causes today. Many of us CSO will continue to rely on you to help and enable us to sustain conservation actions on the ground and well into the future. FPE's action in the future will weigh heavily on the country's resources, the people who depend on it to survive, and certainly on many CSOs directly working with our people to save these resources. As a partner, I am honored to be able to say my 2 cents worth. But I also recognize that my insights may be quite limited to my own experience and sphere, and therefore not representative of the full range of partners that the FPE works with. 23 years ago, we celebrated the beginning of a funding organization dedicated to providing grants and address threats to the Philippine environment. These grants have helped organizations like us to pursue our mission, effectively complementing actions directed at saving, in our case, the great Philippine eagle. I find it confusing then to see FP's role shift towards being, quote, more proactive in building capacities of communities and so on, end quote. This language clearly implies direct action. Does this mean then that FPE will now take a role of an implementing organization? To my mind, this will effectively reduce FPE's capacity for grant making to CSOs. It may also inadvertently give the impression of having given up supporting and capacitating local NGOs in the areas that you've targeted. Granted that you'll do a better job at it, but at what price for local NGOs? Additionally, FPE could become competition for the very resources that we are aspiring for, such as grants from USAID, EU, etc. I would probably think long and hard on this one. On Goal A, to support and initiate community actions and approaches in BCSD, I found myself subscribing to the idea of limiting and focusing resources on a few landscapes to achieve significant results. But then I also found this quite disturbing because ang outline basically is somewhat similar to our own. Parang implementing NGO talagang ang strategic plan. Anyway, himayin na lang natin for what it is. The plan clearly recognizes the improving natural and human assets as key to the success of BCSD goals. As this is aimed at protecting sites and improving livelihood, operationalizing this means that there should be substantial investment on both aspects. Currently, FPE tends to fund more environmental components with very limited allotted for economic activities. From page 1 up to this point, limited support, there are references to the use of science and research as basis for driving policy advocacy and conservation actions, yet there is nothing that leads to publication of, for instance, peer-reviewed journals and its role in knowledge management. The third is on deputizing environmental enforcers. Alternative ways of deputizing local enforcers should be sought if you want community-based monitoring. As we know, many of the local stewards can even pass the minimum requirements of DNR deputation. Alternatively, we may have to look at even improving literacy among the communities we work with. And of course, work towards changing DNR rules. Capacity building of local champions should be professionalized. For example, community forest guards can become local champions of BCSD. The trend in education capacity building now is that short-term trainings can be used to boost qualification. A nationally issued certificate of competency can help professionalize important environment jobs. Since local stewards also have these competencies, they should be compensated properly for this. Lapit na Rafi. On goals D and D, I'll make this very quick. I'm just wondering why there's very little effort more at exploring the traditional debt swaps or exploring new and innovative financing schemes with multilateral agencies, or even tapping Filipinos abroad, since you clearly have the resources to do it. I appreciate FPE's investments and continuing work to further national policies in behalf of the environment. These certainly are needed. However, I fail to see serious actions on enforcement, despite it being mentioned several times in the document. I don't see why, for instance, Bobby Chan's pioneering work isn't piloted in other areas. On goal C, perhaps getting publicity itself for FPE is maybe not as important as the causes, projects, and policies it supports and espouses. FPE does not need to be popular. It already is known, especially to the many organizations and communities it works with. It could, however, possibly explore investing on investigative journalism and report crimes against nature, or even get international exposure to get the attention of philanthropists. Finally, on goal E, it took to me to have been done very quickly and probably should be rewarded. On the whole, I appreciate FPE's effort at redefining itself. I believe, however, that FPE already has the constituency, reputation, and resources at its disposal to take itself to the next level. You have the potential to be much, much more. For me, being an implementing agency or actor just isn't it. Let's ask ourselves, what's the reason for being? And it is to strengthen the NGO community and to help them to be able to get things done on the ground. Thanks.
And now, from our last reactor, may I invite Dr. Malyari on stage.
Welcome to Iloilo City. This is the city of love. So, my theme today is about love, I think. By the way, I concur with Dennis and Prof. Fatima. So, I'm quite confused if this is a strat plan or this is an operational plan. It seems to me, so this document is a hybrid between an operational plan and a strategic plan. But nonetheless, that thing called strat plan, lahat ng sasabihin ko today are all about hugos, about love. Ay, mabalik. Lahat tayo umiibig, lahat tayo tanga kasi alam natin for the last 20 years I've been doing this over and over again. Nasasaktan. Pero nandito pa rin tayo because of our love for the environment. You know, tanga-tanga lang. Hugot number 1. Alin sa tatlo ang pipiliin nyo? Yung Indian, yung pana, o yung pag-ibig? The Indian is us. The partners, etc. The pana is our strategy. That's our vehicle. Ang pag-ibig, ang love, is biodiversity and sustainable development. If that is the case, gusto natin swak, tusok na tusok dun sa puso. Yeah? Tusok. If biodiversity was the target, can you see, can you picture in the strategy where these targets are? To me, the closer you are to biodiversity, it's all about site management, species management with the partners. Yung lahat ng noise, yung these are all in enablers to reach the goal. Sana tusok na tusok dun sa bullseye. However, when I looked at the strategy, I think these are all activities. These are all implementing management actions. The question is, Are there indicators of the improved response of our conservation targets? Is there an articulation? I don't quite see yung reduced pressures, the articulation of the reduced pressures on conservation targets, much less. What is the conservation effect? Ano yung gusto nating makita na conservation effect? That is the puso. Second hugot, where do broken hearts go? This is a generic matrix of increasing degradation and time and disturbance intensity. As you move across these thresholds, pababa na pababa yung functioning ng ecosystem. There's no mention in this strategy. What is the state of the ecosystem and where are we going? I think that this needs to be articulated more. I think when we look at state pressure response, the dream is that from state, we identify the pressure, we identify responses to this pressure, and dalawang klase, hindi ka kailangan bumalik sa state 1. We would have to agree and dream about a state 2. Kung business as usual, decline pa rin yan. Ibig sabihin, wala tayong binagbat, wala tayong effect. The dream is, we achieve state 2. That we achieve a better state, better environment, better ecosystem. But it seems that the strategy doesn't seem to articulate that quite vividly. So, I think we really need more time to juxtaposition all of our site priorities. Saan ba yung site na yan? Sibuyan ba nandito for us to bring this state in Sibuyan to a better state? What needs to be done? Who needs to be involved? What is the sort of level of involvement of communities and our principals in this reversal of this from degraded to more functioning ecosystem? Yun yung gusto natin hindi one glove fits all. Kailangan specific, targeted, at hindi generic. Nakita ko yung strategies. My friends, strategies, yan po yung nagbibigay ng katanyahan ng isang organisasyon. Ngayon lang po ako nakakita ng strategies, mas generic pa. Pag tinakpan mo, kahit yan pwedeng gawin ng Glaxo, pwedeng gawin niya ng mining company. Are we better than a mining company? I hope so. Hugot number 3, kung mahal mo, ipaglaban mo. Hanggang kaya mo, huwag kang bibitaw. But my friends, for the last 20 years, we've seen Sibuyan Island, and we've seen that it has lost forest. Medyo maliit lang. 251 hectares of forest have been lost. Ang problema mo, lahat ng gubat na from old growth, nawala, yung second growth nawala, lahat lumipat sa cultivation. Nasaan ba yun? 8,000. Maybe agriculture is something that, expansion of agriculture is something that we need to look into as a main driver. But it doesn't figure in the stat plan. My friends, this is buyan. Mahal mo yan. Kaya lang, ang nakikita mo hindi deforestation, but forest degradation. Pasensya na po, beep ako, nakakalbo siya, numinipis ang buhok, hindi siya nakakalbo, numinipis. And this is, I think, cause for concern. Protected area, it has received at least $20 million over the last 2 decades. But are we making a dent? I think not. Looking at the interaction, the relationships between the increase of population of non-indigenous peoples and indigenous peoples and the decline of forest cover, 2015, tipping point. What is FPE going to do? Sit here? What are you going to do? Tipping point. Decline of forest is rapidly happening. It's degrading. And yet we have a STAT plan which is, I don't know. Government is simply not doing its job. It's wrong. Yung yellow, yan po yung protected area. Yung pong may shading, yan po yung areas na magsusurvive, yung biodiversity. The more intense the shading, the more species rely on that area. Intense area outside of the yellow. Mali ang posisyon ng biodiversity areas. Perhaps we need to work well. We need to work better. I've not seen in this strategy smart targets. Coverage of FPE project portfolio expanded by X% in X years. X number of hectares by year 10, etc. Drivers of destruction habitat degradation are quantified as baselines by year 1. No further loss in 10, 20 years? Have we articulated that? No. No net loss? Wala rin. Reduction of rate of degradation by what % in how many years? Anong gusto natin? 20, 30, or no loss at all? We have to make those hard decisions. Decreasing size in non-forest habitats by X% in X number of years. Recovery or restoration gain of biomass by X number of hectares in whichever habitat in how many years. Livelihoods improved by what %? We have to make those difficult choices. Hugot number 4. Natapos yung 8 years na relationship ng 7 words, hindi na kita mahal, makakalis ka ba? We have to make those difficult choices now. Otherwise, these difficult choices will be made for us by default. Deforestation is happening right under our noses. Mahal natin pero we're not doing those difficult choices. We're not articulating it in our strategies. At the moment, I think what's happening is that as it stands from strategy natin is this, the arrow, yung pana. The pana is sharp. Pag nakita mo yung strategy, maganda. It makes FPE more efficient. Pero hindi siya nakatusok dun sa mahal natin kasi hiwalay siya. Ang ating pangarap, tusok na tusok all the way through yung pana. At the moment, hindi siya ganyan. So my dream is, tusukin natin. Let's work harder. Sabi nga ni Miriam, those who like me, raise your hand. For those who don't, raise your standards. I hope we raise our standards.